So signage that says stuff to be positive and helpful works really well. So instead of signs that just say dogs on leads all the time, or sheep, dogs on leads, and there's no sheep there, actually, as we saw at Danebury, actually having signage that has some credibility works really well. An example, I don't know if you have this here, but councils don't always do it very well. So for example, this is in the Peak District National Park, and the National Park have got one sign and the council have got another sign. So this one says lambing and nesting time, please keep your dog on a lead. And this one from another council in the same area says keep to the path and dogs under close control. A key thing I would want to give you, and I will say to the access people tomorrow, is please don't use close control, because what does that mean? If you want them on a lead, say on a lead. In legal terms, it only applies in enclosures with sheep. It doesn't apply in the open fell. And actually, this was in November. So you might as well have taken those signs down, because they actually had no credibility and didn't. But people say, oh, we've got up a sign. But actually, it's how we do it. So being really clear and credible. So for example, this site, this is down near Wiltshire. So actually, there's certain parts where they want dogs on leads because of rare birds that are nesting. So actually, the signage all comes down when the birds aren't nesting. And then each month they change it. So this one, it says March, birds are starting to build their nests. Please keep your dog in a lead in certain areas. And again, they've used the paw prints, the traffic light system, to make that clear. And each month they change it till you get to the end, and they'll say, oh, great, 60% more, whichever bird it might be, of fledged this year. And then thank you, and because it is credible, and that has worked really well for them. There is a key thing that actually England and Wales, the Kennel Club, National Farmers Union, NFU Cymru, the Ramblers have agreed to this dog walking code, and everybody wanted to have some clear positive messages to help people walk with their dogs, and this is something we can look at, and Carol has. And this is endorsed by all these bodies and Natural Resources Wales. It was launched at the Royal Welsh Show last year, and this gives very clear, so there's no close control here. Things like you can use any public waste bin or your bin at home. Again, might sound easy, but that messaging wasn't out there. And about, oh, brilliant, Carol. So again, if you're doing some leaflets or something, and it might be in resources that the project builds forward, but even if you want to give some messages wherever you are about how do you come here but not cause problems for other people, there's all sorts of stuff in here, but also for the dog's welfare as well. And this is, as I say, this is good because this is all wording that's been approved by all the bodies, not just the dog people, not just the farmers, but everybody. And again, we won't dwell on that too much. But actually we spent 2 years getting this wording right. So there we go. But also other stuff that you might be able to provide. So for example, dog owners this time of year, is there somewhere shady I can park compared to the bright bits? Some places have installed like a dog wash, which is like a tap and a hose. But actually, if somebody's been out with a mucky walk with their dog and they're staying at your accommodation, where do they clean their dog off? And even if they just walk in and see the little sign that says dog wash, it's like, oh, I'm welcome here. You're trying to, and that builds loyalty. It really does. Even though this Weimaraner looks pretty naffed off, because if you ever, we used to have Weimaraners, and then, they're not always that great with water. But it's something that simple. And this is in a country park. But the thing is that also here, near where the dog owners are going to go to wash their dog's feet, is all the information about dog-friendly cafes, dog-friendly accommodation, because that's where the dog owners want to go. This is in the Highlands, so just outside Inverness. This is like this is the storehouse of foals, as it said. And again, even in the Highlands of Scotland, it does get sunny. So they've got some just shaded places for people to park with their dogs so that they can go in. So if they don't want the dogs going inside, again, it's their choice. But actually, for loyalty, to choose to go here rather than somewhere else, it just works. And it just sends a positive message that a dog owner going into this car park immediately knows, oh, okay, I'm welcome here. And that might sound simple, but it's so, I'm sure a lot of you have done your welcome host training and stuff like that, but that is just so important. Again, there's lots of other sites. The council this morning was saying, oh, I'm not so sure. There's lots of good practice out there that can help us. So this is a very intensively used site down in Kent. And again, they've used a traffic light system. So like where you come out of the on-lead area, dogs allowed off-lead here. How often have you seen something like that? because we're good at saying dog's on lead, but we're not clear where it changes. And if people know, like on lead here, off lead here, most of our fallen angels will do that. Again, there were some ponds that were really good for frogs and toads and stuff, so they designated one pond as being the dog one, and also, as you can see, they concreted it here so that actually the dogs should come in and out. Dog owners wanted to use this one, not because they were told not to use the other ones, but this was the best one. And one of the other things, just going on to the health benefits and stuff, and actually I'm just working with NRW to put the first one in Wales, I think, in, how do you say, Maesteg? Maesteg, thank you. I knew I would get it, Maesteg, that's good. Because there they want people to be more active because, I think is about the lifespan is about 20 years less in Maesteg than it is in Cardiff, which is like, blimey. And they're thinking, well, how do we get people to be more active with their dogs? So actually doing these trails, which rather than saying to people, you need to be more active, they're finding that actually, because we've piloted this elsewhere, actually if you say, here's a way to get your dog more active, people are much likely to do it because you're not admitting, even as I have, a few extra pounds, but actually I'll do it. And this lady was lovely because you used to see her before we put this in, walking with her dog, and it'd just be sniffing and not really interacting with her. And I don't want to be breedies, but you do see quite a few fat Labradors because they love their food and they're a gun dog, and that's great, it makes them easy to train. But actually, she just then started doing stuff with her dog, and if she's doing stuff with her dog, it means it's not over there doing something out of sight, and they just have a better rapport. And so we did some evaluation here, 60% of owners more active. We didn't sit them on scales before and after because that would have been somewhat rude, but 36% of dogs lost weight. And again, I can provide this information. I mean, some of you with big sites, some of this is just a few poles and a jump. And if you've got the space on your site, that can be great. But it might be something that a council might like to look at. Some of them are tunnels and stuff. But again, just to give you the insight, that there's stuff you can do that encourages people to use certain bits, which means they're not going somewhere else. And some of the other stuff as well is these things are being funded through health funding, not for helping tourism, but it's actually being dog friendly to promote health, which is good. So just some key principles underlying it, and these are things that you want to think about in terms of if you've got a behavior at your premises or whatever that you don't want, or there's a behavior you want people to do more of, is thinking about, this is visitor management. Dog owners really aren't that different to anybody else. They're looking for an experience in a positive way. They're not intentionally going out causing hassle, except the 2% of devils. So actually, how can we see the importance of value as dogs, as well as just the problems? And thinking about why is it happening? So why are people not using this bin? Or why did the dog come through here with all its muddy paws rather than the other way? Or why are people using somebody else's cafe instead of mine? Positive approaches to negative impacts, and actually knowing that sometimes, and actually I would say often, what you think is a problem of the dog owner's behavior is actually a problem because you're not giving them the right information, or they're getting conflicting messages, or they haven't been given information to tell them how to do the right thing. And the other thing I would say here is that if what you're doing isn't working, or isn't working well enough, it's maybe time to try something else. So, again, we can do lots on that, but hopefully it's getting you having some ideas about what you can do or what you can do differently.